Hi, welcome to my second recap of this season of my second round game of the league. Before I'm starting with the analysis of my game, I want to just quickly tell you something that I forgot in my first round video. I actually forgot to tell you how the team played. So I showed you how I played and that I won, but the team result I forgot. So in the end, our team actually won that game very decisive with 8-0. So every board won. It's not extremely surprising because we were around 400 points or so higher rated. So it's not a surprise that we won by a big margin, but that everybody won, it's a bit surprising or a bit much. So at one board, one of our players lost actually an exchange during the middle game and came then to an end game, and somehow the end game turned around and he won. So it was a bit too much, too high, but so we won the first game 8-0, and we were, before this second round the match, the leader of the table. So there was one other team, I think they won 7-1 also their game, so they're a bit behind us, but we were before that game that I show you right now, the leader in the table. So this second round game we played away, which means that we have on the odd boards the white pieces and on the even boards the black pieces. So like you can already see, I was playing this time with the black pieces on the board number 6. On average, we were also here the favorite, so we were around 150 points or so higher rated. In my case, I still have 1904 rating points. My opponent has 1712, so difference was around 200 points. So I was pretty much a favorite, but I also had the black pieces. So with the black pieces, it's not that easy to win, even against a weaker opponent. So let's see. I will show you first my match and analyze it a bit, and then I will also tell you how the match in general went for our team and what's the result and what will be next. So let's just start with the game. The opening my opponent chose was d4. Then I played also like I typically do since a long time, knight f6. He played knight f3. I played d6, so it will be a pretty typical King's Indian defense. He played c4. I played g6, knight c3, bishop g7. Here e4. Castles, he played h3 to stop my bishop from going to g4. Everything pretty typical. I played here an e5 move, also typical move. He played d5, and now I made a move that is not a typical move anymore. So I thought it is, but it is not. Here apparently the standard move is really to move already your knight out of the way, so the f knight to h5, for example, to play then f5. I thought here I have a bit of an opportunity to also play on the queen side of the board. Also, I was not exactly sure what my opponent was planning. In many matches, the opponents play some kind of long castle, even when they play c4. Why not? So I didn't really want to start this kingside attack too early. I wanted to develop the other pieces and also do a bit on the queen side. So I decided to play c5. So apparently this is not a really horrible move, but also it's not such a good move, because apparently the pawn can be attacked relatively easy there. So my opponent can play at some point with a bit of preparation b4, and then okay, if I take with the c pawn, then yeah, it can be the c pawn can be pushed, and then when the c pawn trades the d pawn, then the d5 pawn is a passing pawn. So that is some way how to play it and to play a strategy. So when the c pawn is still on c7, this cannot really happen. I mean, they can still place with the white pawn c5, but that's all not that quick and dangerous. So apparently the c5 move was not that good, but yeah, my idea was to play a bit on the queen side, to play myself b5 at some point, so develop the pieces, the bishop to d7 to support b5, the knight to a6 and c7 to support b5, rook to b8, and so on. So that is normally a relatively standard idea. So I thought, okay, this is the way to go. I want to develop like that and then move a bit forward on the queen side, and not do the king side attack with knight to from f6 to h5 and then f5 and f4 and so on. So yeah, this was already apparently a bit of a wrong decision, that I tried to be that open, so that I tried to attack either king side, queen side. So probably I should have already committed to a king side attack here. The next moves were then relatively straightforward. So my opponent played bishop e3, just a development move. I played the knight out to a6 like a planned. Then he played queen d2. This was a bit of a confirmation what I thought, that I should not go too quickly for a kingside attack, because it looked a bit like he was long castling. So I was thinking, I did everything right, I did everything smart, wonderful. So this, you can interpret it as a move that the queen should support something like bishop to h6, trade down my bishop on g7, and either do some kingside attack with the white pieces, or just to weaken a bit the structure maybe. So in that position I decided not to develop the bishop already, but to play knight back to c7, because I was not that sure if I really want to put the bishop out already, and I thought, okay, knight to b4, it cannot really do something. I mean, the white pieces can put their bishop to d3, but do I really want to trade that bishop down? I was not that sure. So I decided to play first the knight back. I think not a too bad move. So in general, that was all my planning that I had. So I made these moves relatively quickly in a consecutive order. So now he plays the bishop to d3, maybe because I moved away. So the bishop here also does not do really that much, so it's blockaded behind the pawns. But okay, it protects the e4 pawn. So maybe later on I had for some time some ideas, like I could sacrifice my f6 knight on e4 and play then when it's taken back by knight or bishop, then I can play something like f5, and then the piece has to go away from e4, and then either on f4 with the move f4 I trap that one bishop, or with e4 I might be able to make a pawn fork, something like that. I thought a lot about moves like that for a while, but I felt like that sacrifice does not really work. So the computer now in the analysis gives me or agrees with me that taking on e4 never worked. So okay, it was good that I didn't do it, but I spent in this phase a lot of time to think about sacrifices like that. Just some tactical maneuvers, but yeah, I did not play them, and apparently they also did not work. So what I did next, again, not developing the bishop, but first moving out the pawn to support the b5 move. He made a quick counter move now, a4 to basically stop a fast b5. And in this situation, I developed basically the last piece, bishop to d7. Also with the idea to support the b5 square. So basically everything I did in the last moves was targeted to playing at some point b5 and attack them on the queen side of the board. And here he made a move that is actually the best move, but surprised me a bit. He played a5, so I thought a5, that's a bit strange, because when I play b5 now, it's defended by one less piece or one less pawn. So I felt like, can that be right? I don't know. But it's apparently the best move. And here I did my first, I took my first real break to think about what to do here. So there was one idea, okay, maybe I can just leave the queen side as it is. I mean, with that a5 move, it's also not that easy for the white pieces anymore to attack. I mean, okay, you can support the push with the b4 pawn, with the b pawn to b4, but I'm not sure it's if that's so good. So probably it is good, because when you trade down the b pawn with the c pawn, then you open up the b line, the b file, and attack maybe the b7 pawn. So probably it is good for the white pieces to support the b file and go for a push, but I was not that sure. So here I thought a lot, okay, what is the right idea, how to continue, play further on the queen side with the initial idea that I had. So play something like rook b8, or go for something else. So I go for an attack on the king side instead. So that was where I was thinking about removing the knight from f6. So okay, the one idea that did not work is sacrificing it on e4, but maybe moving it to h5, moving it back to e8, and then just supporting the f5 push. I also thought about queen to c8, to go into the diagonal to attack the h3 pawn. So a bit, when he short castles, that I have then a relatively quick kingside attack. So for me, the most concrete plan here was to put the rook on b8, so to support my own b pawn push, and that is what I played, and actually also the best move in that situation. So here he finished development, just castled, so that's a pretty logical move. And now I thought, okay, everything I did now, the last moves, was to support the b5, so of course I played the b5. Okay, and here he really played a move that a bit surprised me. It's again the best move. So my opponent played a lot of the best moves in this position, or in this phase of the game, and he took that pawn just opposite. Right, so here the next move is also pretty forced, rook takes. But in this position I felt like, okay, this cannot be that bad for me, which is a wrong assessment. So the computer says it's minus 1.5, so it's plus 1.5 for the white pieces, so it's pretty good advantage. But I felt like, okay, the a6 pawn, it is not really a weakness, because the light pieces, white's light pieces cannot really attack it. It's protected by the knight from c7, so even if two rooks attack it, the knight protects it, so a lighter piece protects it, and it cannot really be taken. And I am basically attacking in the b file, so the b pawn is a target, the white b pawn, and I can also blockade it with a rook with something like b3. Apparently this is all not 100% true, because it's still like white can just support the b pawn their own, push for b4 and trade the b pawn for the c pawn, push the c pawn, trade the c pawn for my d pawn, and then they have a pass pawn on d5. And I cannot really do anything against it. That's a problem. then that is kind of already a close to winning strategy for the white pieces. So yeah, here I did a kind of misassessment of the situation, or miscalculation of the situation. It was pretty bad. I felt in this situation, I'm in a good situation, I'm in good shape, but apparently I'm close to losing. I mean, you need to find the right idea with the white pieces and everything, but I'm already in a pretty tough spot here. Okay, so what did white play? White played the f rook to b1, supporting that pawn, and maybe a pawn push at some point. It's not working right now because the b4 is protected by the rook, but this is already a good preparatory move. And in this position, I made my second break where I invested a lot of time to think about, okay, how to proceed here. So one idea was, okay, continue on the queen side, play queen b8 and put the pieces in there, but I felt like, okay, I cannot really attack on the queen side. But that is right. I mean, where can I put my pieces? So the b5 square is protected by the c4 pawn. That's where I could place bishop, knight, other pieces, but I cannot come there. I cannot come to that piece. I cannot come to that square with my pieces. Okay, I can move the rook up to b4, but what does it there? It's not really that useful. I can bring more heavy pieces to the b file, but it's also not really a breakthrough opportunity. So I felt like, okay, the only option I have is to readjust my attack and go back to the king side. So that the original plan that you normally have in that King's Indian games, attack on the king side. So the question was how to do that. I had multiple ideas. I had one idea, like I said before, queen to c8. The queen on c8 can basically support the bishop on the diagonal and support at some point maybe a sacrifice on h3. So sacrificing the bishop on h3, and when it takes back, then the queen enters on h3. You give one piece for 2 pawns, but with enough support that might become a mating attack at some point. Not right now, but maybe at some point that could be some ideas. And the other idea is to remove the knight from f6, either to h5 or back to e8. h5 would be nicer. I did not play it because I feared the pawn move g4. And here pawn move g4 is not really a good move, because apparently you can play queen to f6 and attack the unprotected knight on f3. I'm just showing it. So if you move here and you fear this move, then you can go here, and then that knight on f3 is hanging. And if you protect it with something like that, then you can move the knight in here, and this is pretty okay. And maybe even advantageous for the black pieces. So I feared that. I did not see that you can put the queen to f6, so I did not play that, but instead I played this move. I showed it already. I moved the the knight to e8 back. Okay, so this is again not really a perfect move. It's not making my position worse than it was before, but it's not such a great move. My opponent played then the bishop to g5. That was also not really a threat I expected. It also does not hurt that much. I can just move the pawn in between, so I cannot remove the queen because bishop to e6, bishop to e7 is a threat, but I can just move f6, remove the bishop again, and then the bishop has to go to h6, and then I can just push my pawn again to f5, and now I have exactly reached what I wanted. So that was not that bad for me. Now the position is also not that bad anymore. It's still a bit worse, but it's not that horrible anymore. And here he decided to trade that bishop. I was not that sure what I want to do here. Should I take back with the knight or the king? Taking back with the king has the advantage that I can move the knight back to f6, and I felt like the knight would be strong on f6. Taking with the knight has the advantage that the knight comes already quicker back into the game, and you can develop it to f5 and maybe to d4 at some point. So maybe taking with the knight would have been better, but I decided, okay, take with the king. Okay, so now he made a move that I did not expect. Queen g5. Apparently queen g5 is a relatively bad move, but only when I make one move, if I trade queens. If I trade queens, I basically stop all reasonable attacking options, but the thing is, in that position, I did not want to trade the queens. I felt like, okay, I need a queen on the board to make my own attack. So I decided against trading queens, which is a mistake, but yeah, I did not really see it like that. So apparently I have to play for a draw, but yeah, maybe because I also played an opponent who was significantly lower rated, I didn't want that. So I played queen to c8, again supporting the bishop on the diagonal, supporting the f5 pawn. Yeah, so that was my idea, to bring the queen again as a supporting piece and not trade the queens. Here he supported attack with knight to h4. So basically the idea is to have that knight go to f5. So in principle you can even now take with the knight on f5 because the g-pawn is pinned. And yeah, so this causes really problems. So right now the pawn is hanging, in fact, yeah, because the g-pawn cannot take back. And here I thought, okay, I need to do something. And I just came up with two ideas. The first idea was pawn takes e4. Yeah? But after pawn takes e4 and probably bishop takes e4, then now suddenly bishop, knight, queen, everything attacks the g-pawn. Yeah, it does not really look that good. Maybe also the knight, the other knight can come in at some point. So that did not look good. The other option is to go with the king out of the pin. So king h8. That was the idea, or the move I decided then. The good move in that position is f4. Just move the pawn up f4. Then you lock out the white pieces from the center. And then everything is relatively fine. But okay, I went here for king retreat to h8. This is already kind of lost. Yeah. Those were some mistakes. I was on close to equality a few moves ago. Now I'm relatively lost. Yeah, so here, when the white player really just opens up the position, I get pretty quickly big problems. So something like f4 to trade down some pawns and let the white pieces come in is already relatively deadly. Okay, so he played the second best move, queen h6. This causes already some problems. So knight takes g6 is a problem, queen takes f8 is a problem. So I decided for rook g8, so move the rook away, protect the g6 pawn. And here he made a bit of an inaccuracy to give me a bit more room to breathe. He moved the knight back to f3. So that was a bit of a luck for me. And here I made a very quick move, so I did not think much. I was very afraid of the e-pawn taking f5. So I just made f4. So now I've seen the idea that a few moves ago would have been very good. Now it's not that bad, but here already new problems are emerging. So he played knight g5. I could have thought about that, that this was relatively obviously coming, But yeah, I didn't really think about that. This is again a mate threat, or actually two mate threats. Queen takes h7, but also knight moves to f7. Two threats in one. So there's basically one move that stops them, which is rook to g7, which I played. And now he thought a lot. He thought a lot, and he took then with the knight on h7. And I thought a few moves ago about something like sacrificing the knight for 2 pawns. So I thought here, okay, he now does it. He sacrifices the knight for 2 pawns. So rook takes h7, queen takes g6, and he has 2 pawns for the knight. And I was already reaching out to the rook, and I was like, oh, wait, what's happening? And yeah, the queen can go to f8 then. So I nearly blundered a mate in one, but I figured it out when I was already reaching like that over the board, and made a quick check, and then I played the only move that's possible, queen g8. So I have to accept that I just lost 1 pawn. It is as it is. Okay, he has to remove the knight back to g5, and yeah, so now I'm pawn down, and there are big question marks what to do now, because there is not really a good plan, a good way for initiative. So I thought, okay, which pieces can I move out? Where to can I move them out? So the only piece that I really felt I can move properly is the knight on e8 back to f6. So that's kind of a standard idea. And then maybe move the knight to h7 to trade down his attacking knight, or maybe to h5, but that's also not really helpful. But so at least I tried something, so move the knight to f6. Okay, so his next move was also to activate a new piece. He played now bishop to c2. So I felt like, okay, he wants to play it to a4, maybe trade something down, maybe move with his pieces in through the queen's side. So on the king's side, he cannot really bring more pieces to the fight. So maybe he wants to relocate and attack on the queen's side. So here I made one move. So the idea is, like I said before, moving the knight to h7 and trade down the knight and make something on the king's side. That's my plan. So I moved back the bishop to e8 to protect the g6 pawn, because now I can actually move the knight to h7 and then take back with the rook, because otherwise the g6 pawn would have been hanging and it would just lose a second pawn. So now it's protected, the g6 pawn. Okay. What did he do? He played the bishop to a4, to trade it down. Okay, so I did not really know what else to do than my initial plan. So knight goes to h7. He also just traded. Okay, rook trades, queen goes back. And in this position, apparently it's better to move the king to f7. So give yourself a bit of space on the king's side to move the queen maybe to h8 or something. I removed the bishop, so I don't need to trade the bishop. So I wanted to avoid just any kind of trade. That move is also not very good, because the bishop on f7 does not really do something. Also, it blockades my king a bit. Okay, it opens the e8 square for my knight. That is also a bit of a backup idea. I had to move the knight away from the queen's side, so to the king's side, so to e8, f6, and so on. So yeah, that was the idea, but it's not really convincing. Okay, so what he does now is bring the bishop back to d1, maybe to place it on g4. Also maybe to support something like an h-pawn push, h4, h5, something like that. I played knight e8, with the idea then go to f6 at some point. And here he made a move that surprised me. He played knight a2. Right, and here I was like, okay, this looks like he wants to play b4, but b4, I quickly saw that b4 does not really work, because if I take with my pawn on a b pawn, then the queen on a c file opens up and the queen attacks the c4 pawn. So suddenly an additional pawn is hanging in the white in the white position. So I was like, okay, I don't understand this. And then what I did was to move, to just wait, kind of, move the king up to g7 to basically support the knight moving to f6 and just wait what happens. And now he really played the move b4, and this gives away all the advantage, and now we're suddenly equal again. Okay, here it's relatively easy, so I've seen the idea of opening the c file up, that the queen can take on c4. So I take, he takes, the knight takes, the queen takes. And in this position, it's the best not to be that greedy and take the a6 pawn, because when the knight takes the a6 pawn, the knight is pretty on the edge of the board. So the knight does not really do anything. So a more active way would be something like playing knight c6 to bring the knight closer to the attack and try something. Yeah, he took here with the knight on a6, and here I felt like, okay, the e4 pawn is hanging, so I just take it. In that position, it is stronger to play first knight to f6, because there is not really a way to protect the e4 pawn. If you play, for example, f3, and knight here, and f3, you can play the queen here, and you're forking the king and the rook. So this does not really work. So bringing the knight in would be stronger. I'm just a materialist. Queen takes e4. Okay, so it's also a good move. It's pretty equal, but in this situation I felt like it was better, which is not true, but I felt way better than a few moves before. And it's true. A few moves before I was really under pressure. Here it's a position you can play. Okay, so here the next move, he attacked my queen and also protected a bit the d5 pawn. I moved with the queen away and quickly attacked the rook. He played rook d1, which is already a bit of a mistake, because now the queen can attack again the knight that is on the rim, so it's a good target. I played queen b6. He basically just retreated with the rook, and now I brought again my fresh piece into the game, knight f6, and here he played h4, and this h4 move is pretty annoying for me, because the question is, okay, I have good active pieces, but how to actually move that pieces in, where to go with the pieces. And here I felt like, okay, h5 is really a problem. Apparently it's not such a big problem, but I cannot play something like I had the idea of rook h8 and then to a8 and then win the piece, but I cannot really do that. So in that position, it's also move 39, so I tried to make a bit of quick moves to get over the time control. I was not in big time trouble, but just make a bit of quick moves. And I played queen to b2, again attack the rook, and then he played rook to d1 to protect his pawn. Okay, and now I thought, okay, what could be ideas to further improve the position? So like I said, activating the rook does not really work, because h5 might be a threat. The queen alone on the queen side cannot really do something. I could attack additionally the d5 pawn, something like, yeah, okay, queen, let's say, yeah, b7 is maybe not ideal. Also b5 is not ideal, but attacking the knight and the pawn at the same time, yeah, might work. But then I decided, okay, what is about the pawns? So I have now pawns in the center, an e pawn. Maybe I can move just the e pawn through, create a passed pawn, e4, e5, get it through. So I played just e4 straight away. Yeah, he cannot take the f pawn, or because then the bishop would be gone. So there he played the bishop to g4, and then the follow-up move that I had was just further push the pawn, because the bishop on g4 is now attacked by the knight. So I can just push the pawn forward, because yeah, the first threat is that the f2 pawn is hanging, and he can still not really take with the queen any of my pawns, because yeah, the bishop is attacked by the knight. So the queen needs to protect the bishop further. So I played e3, and here I had multiple ideas. So one idea is the queen goes to attacks on f2. Another idea is when the pawns are traded down, queen can go to b6 down here and attack the king on the diagonal and the knight. So maybe win a full knight this way. Yeah, so I had all kinds of ideas here that might win, but for whatever reason, so he took my pawn on e3, and here I was a bit, I don't know, shocked is the wrong word, but somehow either I forgot to calculate this line, what happens if f takes. I don't know, I mean, the queen can still not take the e3 pawn, because yeah, just show it. If I take so, the queen cannot really take, because then the knight takes here, and I'm a piece up. So that's not, yeah, not really working. So what's the threat, or what's the danger of taking? Yeah, there's no problem. Yeah, taking the pawn is good. The other option would be something like moving the queen to b6 already. Yeah, queen b6 is also an interesting move, because now you're attacking this pawn and that bishop. So this pawn is pinned. So yeah, you can play something like queen takes that pawn, but then rook takes here is a danger. Then also that bishop is attacked. So yeah, there are so many things that work. I don't know why I was so afraid, but here I was like, okay, maybe I take, maybe I take with a knight first on g4. Yeah, okay, why did I take with a knight on g4? Because I thought, okay, the queen kind of has to take back, and then the queen is on the white squares and not on the black squares, and I feared the queen on the black squares, yeah, to enter the diagonal, which is a bit ironic in a few moves. So here the queen takes back and the pawn takes back, and here the problem comes now. There is one very good move, and that is queen to d4 check, and this forces a queen trade, and this basically throws away my full advantage. Now it's suddenly equal again. Okay, so I mean, I had to do the best out of the situation. I have to trade, and now you suddenly see, okay, that advanced pawn on e3 is suddenly weak. The h4 pawn is protected by the rook. The e5 pawn is protected by the rook. My king is fast in the center, but it's not really an advantage, because the king cannot really go properly anywhere. So I play c6, but it's not really helping much, because he can activate the knight. I play e5, which is a mistake, because I just overlooked knight c6 check, and now the king just has to go again. It's not really working, it's not really helping. So I have to retreat the king, and I moved here. I did not really fear a check on e7, but apparently check by g4 is here pretty good. But yeah, he goes first for centralizing also his king, so king f1. I played bishop e8. This is already a bit of the wrong idea, but I tried to attack. I tried to attack first his d pawn and the c knight, and try to make pressure there because my king is closer and everything. But okay, he plays king e2, and here I make already some kind of again mistake. I played rook to c7, yeah? To attack that piece. He played g4 check. I have to retreat with the king, and here he goes rook c4. Now it's again, yeah, pretty much equal. If somebody wins, it's the white pieces, but it's relatively equal. And here I was thinking a lot what to do here. I felt like, okay, I need to trade down the light piece because a rook endgame is typically more drawn. In that position, I just wanted to have a draw. Yeah, so here I did not have any illusions that I can win anything. I just wanted a draw. So the idea was kind of trade down that one piece that I have a rook endgame that is probably drawn, and hope that my a bit more central king is able to, yeah, basically stop everything. Yeah? And I took here with the bishop. He made it again easier for me. He took with the rook. Taking with the pawn would have been annoying because then he had a pass pawn on c6, and that it's still a draw, but this is a lot harder to draw. I feel. I played here the rook back to d7 to protect the pawn. Yeah, just because that it does not fall. And here he played king e3, and I was a bit surprised. He offered me a draw, and I, yeah, basically immediately accepted it. Yeah, because I mean I cannot really hope for more than a draw here. Yeah, so I mean the idea is basically to move the king out to e5 in the opposition, so that the d pawn basically falls. And then maybe move the own rook to h7 to force some trade or winning of the pawn on the queen side. And yeah, okay, realistically this is pretty much a secure draw, but yeah, he offered me the draw, I accepted it, everything fine. Yeah, so one thing I didn't do, so I've learned that on higher levels this is not a rule, but on lower level chess typically the rule is that for draw offers you have to or can to consult with the team captain. So the team captain is allowed to talk with the players and to tell them if they should accept a draw or should not accept a draw. I did not ask, I just accepted it in that position, which is somehow probably right, because I cannot do more than a draw realistically, but technically I should have asked the team captain if I can accept it. But yeah, I didn't, and it was also okay, this a decision that was okay, because I was playing on the last board, and I just heard somewhere in the beginning of the game that already two of our players or three of our players, I was not that sure, had already won. Yeah, so the boards behind me, our players were already congratulated. So I was sure we were at least 2-0 up, maybe 3-0, and I felt like, okay, the games run very well. Yeah, I did not really know what the standing was, but in the end it was right, because the standing was 6.5 to 1/2, and we won 7-1 with my game. So in the end everything was fine. Yeah, so that was the end result, and we are still number 1 in the table. Yeah, that is basically everything that I can say at the moment with how well our season is running. And the next match will be in 3 weeks. So there I will make another recap for you again at the same time, 10 a.m. On Sunday morning. I will upload it. It is the only other team, I think, or maybe one of 2 other teams. I forgot the table, who have also the first 2 rounds won. So they are kind of a direct competitor at the moment, but they should also be around 100 points lower rated than us. So maybe we can win again. Yeah, we'll see. But chances are not that bad, I would say, if you can assemble a good team again. And yeah, so let's hope for it, that we can play with a lot of good players and that we have again a bit luck. So this time I had the luck that I did not lose a game that was lost for a while, but okay, I was also not good enough to use the advantages that I got, because my opponent made also some bad decisions. So in the end, I'm kind of fine with the result, with the draw. I did not play that horrible in many phases of the game, so I kind of accept it. But yeah, having a draw against a player 200 points lower, even with the black pieces, is a bit sad. But the way how the match went, I can be very happy that in the end it was a draw. So yeah, that is the situation. And then we see ourselves hopefully in 3 weeks when I upload the next recap. So have a good Sunday and see you the next time.